Yeah, Oklahoma had a couple of transfers on campus this week. Josh Wallace, cornerback from Massachusetts, and a defensive lineman, Dejon Terry, defensive lineman from Tennessee. So I think both of Terry. I think Oklahoma really jumped on Terry quickly. He hasn't been in the portal too long, right? I think he just hit the portal last week. So I think just to solidify that defensive line, and I mean obviously we've talked about this a little bit just over the last few weeks, and I think those are the spots that BV and the team's going to continue to hit is the cornerback spot, defensive lineman spot. Wouldn't be surprised at some point. I don't know. I mean, it's going to have to be the right fit. Wouldn't be surprised if they go for a receiver as well. But yeah, I mean, I think I think they no imminent commitment. Although I've heard some things about the Tennessee kid that he might be close. But yeah, I mean, I think that's a good opportunity for Oklahoma guy. He played. I'm not sure how much. I need to do a little bit more digging on him, but played a decent amount last year for Tennessee.
Yeah, he looked pretty good from what I could tell for Tennessee last season, and if I don't know if you're hearing the same thing, but I'm hearing that Jacob Lacey may not be healthy, which is part of the reason that they're really obviously that if there's a place on this team that they really need to go after, it's defensive tackle. They've already had some big pickups there.
Yep.
Trace Ford being from Oklahoma State, he's more of an end guy. Mm-hmm. I still feel like you're going to see maybe Ethan Downs or maybe Grayson Holt maybe moving in, put a little more weight on those guys. I could see that happening. But I do agree. And but Josh Wallace, everything that I've seen from him, that kid looks really good. And I know that Oklahoma is certainly not the only ones going after either one of these guys, but as far as need is concerned, I think that I was kind of hearing the same thing about Dejon Terry just right before we came on too. That it may be going to happen because it was a surprise for everybody. Nobody even knew about it, and he was there. So
whether or not they go after receiver is going to be interesting. I think they're confident in what they're going to, I know it's hard with a mid-year guy coming in Pedway, but I think they're very confident in what they're going to get from him as a true freshman, being able to push some of these guys and maybe play. So I don't know. I mean, I think it'll depend on how they feel about some of these other guys but yeah, I would be I wouldn't be surprised if Oklahoma actually went after another receiver as well.
Yeah, and I think it also, if they don't, I would say that maybe it's because Jaden Gibson's maybe looking a little better than what he did in the spring, which I think most Oklahoma fans have been kind of hoping for that, right? We're talking about a kid that's 6'6", he's got a lot of speed. It just seems like I know on my channel everybody says if he just gets that one ball, that he catches it clean and he goes, it might turn on his, it might turn up his confidence level and he could turn into a real game breaker. He's a young kid. I think there's an opportunity. I think that had, some of the things that have happened throughout the offseason not happened, he might have been on his way out the door. You know what I mean? I could have seen that happening. And in fact, there have been people that have talked about it a lot, different folks that I've spoken to that he may have been headed out the door. I think it's a good opportunity for him to kind of step up. And I know there's a couple of guys out there, but again, when we were talking about last week, the whole relationship recruiting stuff, I don't know that they're too keen on just grabbing just anybody out there. And, receivers are kind of the divas of them. It seems like if they wanted those guys, they probably would have already had them. So, and I still feel like there's a lot of talent in the room that just hasn't been realized yet, maybe. I would hope that some of those guys that have been around for a little while are going to do quite a bit better this season. Jalil Farouk this is his season to step up and be the man. We won't know until he does it, but I mean, I feel like he should.
Yeah, no, I'm with you. I mean, I think the question remains: can he be the guy? Can he be the number one guy? Because he's going to be asked to be that guy. He's going to have to be that guy this year, right? I mean, I think of a guy like Charleston Rambo a few years ago. Just he was a good complement receiver, but he wasn't at OU. He did really well at Miami, right? But wasn't couldn't really shoulder the load, couldn't be
Right.
the number one guy. So I mean, I think Jalil Farooq has the skills, has the ability to do that, but he's not, and he got some deep balls last year, but I think just a key part of this team from a receiver perspective is someone to take the top off the defense. Now, whoever that ends up being, I think they need someone in that role. That it's been Mims over the last few years. It's been other people throughout the last 10 years, but they need somebody to be able to take the top off that defense. And whether that's,
I think Andrell Anthony looks like he could be that guy. He's got that kind of speed. And then you would Jacquez Petaway, as you said earlier. I think that it's a freshman, so you don't know for sure. But man, I just keep going back to the picture I saw of him on one of the podiums at a track meet, and he looks like a linebacker. And he can go. I mean, he ran a 10-2. Yeah. So it's like, it's and then, we didn't even say anything about the kid from Texas, that coming in either. And there's another speed guy. So I think that there's some guys that can take the top off. But again, as you said, you got to do it first before we can really trust that you do. How many guys do you need in the room, though?
As we, I know we're about to wrap up here, but I think this is going to be a consistent theme that we talk about with a lot of different position groups coming into the season for Oklahoma. They've got a lot of talent, but they've not necessarily done it on Saturdays. So are they going to be able to step up to do it? I think a lot of us believe that they can. Now, whether they will or not is a couple of different things. So, there's a lot of talent. I think we all realize that when Riley left, he kind of scooped up a lot of talent and accompanied with, on the defensive side, had a lot of guys drafted, right? And a lot of guys left. So I think they've kind of stockpiled it to a certain degree of where it, probably not where it needs to be across the board, but pretty close to where it was under Riley, but it's unrealized potential at this point.
Yeah, and I was going to ask you, do you think that a lot of it maybe has to do, because you hear Jeff Levy talking about the difference in this year and last year with, people forget that it is a different offense than what Lincoln ran. So some of the things that you saw last year with drop passes and things like that, it looked like it could have been timing a lot of it, maybe another year in the system for some of these guys, and maybe getting the spring for a guy like Andrell Anthony, even Jaden Gibson, getting that a little extra time to get to shine. Maybe that helped them out a little bit as well. I think that they should be better if you would hope that they get better from year to year, right? But obviously in a new offense, because it's not Lincoln's offense, so I think it was new for everybody. And I think sometimes we forget about it because it looks similar, but it's not really, as far as the terminology and some of the timing stuff, it's just different,
No, you're absolutely right. I mean, I think you would expect on both sides of the ball, just a second year in this system would be just the familiarity there and kind of getting some of their guys on campus, right? They still a lot of Riley's guys and Stu's guys to a certain degree, right? But you still got you're starting to get some of their guys. And, I think Jeff Levy was very unfairly criticized.
He took a lot of strays, man.
Right. I mean, that's Oklahoma fan base just in general. Like if they're not scoring 50 points a game, there's something wrong with the offensive coordinator. But no, I mean, I think, he did a really good job compared to, what he had to work with last year. And I think it's only improving.